What's up?
Nothing much. How you
It,
doing?
I'm great. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'll be completely honest with you. I did Zoom calls. I've been doing the podcast for about 5 years now, and I did Zoom calls back in the day because I was like, I really want to figure out how to do like everything and how does Zoom call podcasting work. And about 2 years ago, I was like, I don't know if I want to do those anymore. And then I saw you on Kill Tony, and I was like, you know what? I have so many fucking questions that I don't give a shit if it's over Zoom, over smoke signals. I do not care.
Carrier
So,
pigeon.
yeah. So thank you very much for coming and doing this. So I want to get your title correctly because along with being a stand-up comic, you are also in politics. You are a politician. And I had some notes. I want to make sure I got this right. So you are in the Delaware House of Representatives for District 26.
Correct. Yeah.
So I guess where I want to start is what in your life, as far as interest goes, did comedy or did podcast or comedy or politics start first?
I think if I'm being completely honest with myself and all that, I would say comedy. Like as a kid, I remember like some of my earliest memories with comedy are like talent shows, which was a big thing in our generation, like sleepovers and stuff like that. There was always like a talent show, and one of my sisters could sing, and one of my sisters could play an instrument, and one of them was a hula hooper, and I was always doing impressions and like acting out commercials and like just being silly. And my uncle's a comedian, so I knew from a young age that comedy was a career path. And I wanted to be a comedian. But I started in like officially in earnest as a politician. In 2019, I ran for office, got elected in 2020, and then I didn't start doing comedy, like going to open mics and all that until 2022.
Okay. So
So kind of a weird
yeah,
path.
let's. Well, first of all, we'll get to the politics here in a little bit, but I just think it's interesting that you ran and won on your first bid. I know now. I'm not going to pretend like I understand anything about Delaware's politics. I'm from New Mexico. I'm not going to pretend like I know anything like that. But I just think that's fascinating. So so your uncle or is a comedian. So is he the first person that you voiced your interest? Like, hey, I think I want to do what you're doing, or what is this stand-up comedy stuff? Did you tell him first, or? Improvised Intelligence is sponsored by the amazing people over at Chop Chili. If you've been a long time listener to the podcast, you know that this is my favorite brand of chili here in New Mexico. Pretty much put it on every meal that I can. They've got red chili, green chili. My personal favorite is this blend of the red and the green. I think this stuff is phenomenal. They also have frozen bags of green chili that you can order directly from their website at chopchilico.com. You can also find them in stores around the state of New Mexico at Sprouts, Albertsons, Farmers Country Market, John Brooks, Keller's Farm Store, Lowe's Market. You can also find them in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Hobbs, Gallup, Tucumcari, and for all my friends in Texas, they are in El Paso. Again, chopchilico.com. Go get yourself some amazing chili. Now back to the podcast.
No.
Did you tell anybody?
I told my mom kind of jokingly in high school as I was getting ready to go to college. I was like, I'm not gonna go to college. I'm just gonna go to New York, try out for SNL. And she was like, ha ha ha, no, you're not. That's cute. Absolutely not. And I'm glad I didn't do that. Like yeah, I'm glad I didn't do that. But I told my mom that like jokingly. And then I kind of just moved on. Like I guess we're indoctrinated and socialized to think that careers in the arts are not sustainable. It's very like volatile to make a living doing art. So I was interested in politics. I studied politics in college, got a job working in the state house, and very quickly learned that politicians are just regular people. And it kind of working there demystified the space for me. Like I kind of describe um, working in politics is like the end of The Wizard of Oz, where Dorothy sees him behind and he's, like, and it's like, oh, this is This is bad. Like these people
Yeah.
don't know what they're talking about any more than I do, right? Like, and I care. So that kind of radicalized me. That was like 2016, 2017, 2018. I ended up leaving that position. And then some friends of mine who I'd worked with in politics, they were like, the guy who reps your area is retiring. You should think about running. And I was like, hmm. And I had left that job thinking like I'm never doing that again. Like it was so maddening.
What were
And the
you
work
doing at the
being
time?
I was a staff person, so I was assisting someone in a role like I'm in
Okay.
now, picking up phone calls, talking to constituents that called in with issues, trying to help them through, get resources and stuff like that, taking minutes at meetings, like that kind of work.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, no, I'm good. I don't want to do this anymore. And I got a job paying a little bit more at the local university where I was supposed to be doing policy research. That's like really what I studied. So I was like, oh, this is exciting. And it was working at the Biden Institute where Joe Biden was supposed to be retiring to after he left the vice presidency. So I was like, this is awesome. Like I get to work for,
Ugh.
just put yourself in that time period, okay? Don't look at it with 2025,
Right. Yeah, I
2026
know.
eyes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because this
Like
is, you said this was
2018.
2018. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is like Joe Biden, middle class Joe, and it's this think tank that's supposed to be taking on all the issues that he cared about. At the time, we were talking about like the opioid epidemic, right? It's like pre-COVID, opioid epidemic, middle class economics, doing research for this guy, and like putting out policy proposals. And I was like, that sounds like a dream job. Um, but Trump had won, and so around that time is when Biden starts thinking, I'm going to run again. And so instead of it being a research institution, it just became like a campaign arm. And like
Right.
there was no research happening. So I was pretty bored pretty quickly. Um, yeah. So my friends are like, hey, this state rep is retiring. You should think about running because you have a lot of opinions and you worked there, you know the players, etc. And it's my hometown. Like I lived all but like 2 years in this area. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I start thinking about it, put a team together. I'm like 25 at the time. And I go to him and I'm like, hey, like I'm like try to get like the blessing, right? And like get his endorsement. And he's like, yeah, what if I don't retire? And I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm running against you. Like, and I used to work for him, so it was really awkward. But I'm like, dude, I worked for you. I know you weren't really doing anything.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I've
like
seen. Yeah.
what is another 2 years of this look like? So I run against the incumbent who'd been in office for like 22 years at that point, and somebody else jumped in the race. So it's three Democrats running, and we ended up winning by 43 votes, which was pretty intense.
Holy shit. Now, did that turn into a runoff, or did you have over 50?
No, yeah, I think for it would be like a recount that we would have in Delaware.
Oh, okay.
And I think the vote threshold is like 15 or something, like within something like that, then there's a recount. But nope, there was no recount. I got my little certificate in the mail from the judge saying you officially won the election. And it was during the pandemic, so a lot of it was like this over Zoom,
Yeah.
for the beginning. And it was a pretty tough time to be elected into office when people are looking to you to help them with issues and you can't really do much.
Well, I was
Um,
gonna. I'm so glad you said that because I meant to ask you this in the beginning too. For as many people that like to talk about politics and try to sound informed, a lot of people don't understand what 90% of the positions in politics are outside of like president, governor, maybe mayor, maybe. So, can you describe what the actual job description that you have is and what your supposed function is in the government? And I just say that because
yeah, yeah,
I just don't trust the government. I just but that's my radicalized brain where I'm like, I know what these people are supposed to be doing.
yeah.
What is happening? So what is the function of a representative and of your job?
Yeah, yeah. So just like how in DC we have our Congress and Senate, right? Most states have a state house and a state Senate. Some only have one house, if you will. But so I'm in the state house. We have a state Senate. And our state house is 41 members, each representing about 26,000 people. It's Delaware, very small. And my role is anybody who lives in those boundaries is should be able to call my office and tell me whatever issue they're dealing with, and then I help them address that problem. So like when I first got elected, a lot of the issues I was hearing from people was around unemployment, people that were filing for unemployment and not hearing back from the unemployment office. And so they reach out and they say like, look, this is my case number, this is my information. I have not heard anything and like it's getting really tight. I need my unemployment check. And so then I would call up the unemployment office on their behalf and advocate for them. And we do that basically for every state agency, right? So people that are dealing with SNAP benefits or housing vouchers or whatever other programs that the state administers, we're kind of their liaison. And then through those interactions, when people say like, yo, I haven't heard from unemployment in 4 weeks. And I hear from five people who've each said they haven't heard from them in 4 weeks. Now I know as a legislator, I can go to others and say, like, hey, are your people in your community hearing from unemployment? Like, do we have an issue with maybe like wait times or do they need to hire more people or whatever? And then we're the ones that initiate like actual laws that change how those things are carried out. So that might mean when we write the budget, the state budget that is voted on by all of us as members, we might say we're going to allocate more money for the Department of Labor so that they can have more people on the phones picking up those calls for unemployment. Um, we in the state house in Delaware, the state house is the house that starts all tax bills. So any tax increase has to start with a member of the House introducing a bill saying we're going to increase taxes. And then we all vote on them. And there's a higher vote threshold that's required to pass a new tax. So Delaware doesn't have sales tax, but we have other types of taxes. We just legalized marijuana. That's something that I got to vote on. I got to put my name on a bill saying I'm a sponsor of legalization of marijuana,
Well,
creating this
congratulations.
program. Yeah, it took us a while to get there. The governor vetoed it. We overrode his veto. Like it was really
And I'm
so
not even like,
dramatic.
and like, I enjoy it. I don't smoke that much, but I just, even from my point of view, I'm just like, can we not? Like, with the,
Yeah, like
it's the most benign 80-20 issue here. So,
right. But
congratulations.
it's yeah, so it's state legislators that vote to legalize marijuana or other things like that. Um, and then we had to have a higher amount of members that supported that because it created a tax because it is like a state-run program. Um, so I think, and so then I guess I kind of said this, but we are legislators, meaning that we create laws, we legislate. So when I meet with my constituents and they bring up different issues, then I go and research and say, okay, well, what's New Mexico doing? Because they don't have this issue, and then try to replicate programs or try to come up with programs and then write them out as bills, advocate for them, have other members vote for them or against them, and then work with senators to get it passed in the Senate, and then eventually the governor signs them.
And I know you're using New Mexico as an example, but do not ever use New Mexico as a template. We are so bad at everything.
Yeah.
Education, violent crime, fucking auto theft. Everything here is falling apart.
Auto theft. Interesting. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Auto theft and auto crime in general we are consistently jumping between like 49th and 48th in the state for that. I don't think we've ever hit 50th, but I know that we're like 49th and 48th.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, we are 51st in education, so that's nice. Yeah, yeah, that's nice.
How?
Because yeah, I have a whole bit about it in my act, but
It's like
like
Puerto Rico's above you. Like, who are you
DC.
counting as the DC? Okay.
Yeah, they
Oh,
added.
wow.
Yeah, in 2022, they started to add Washington D.C. into the rankings for education, and then for I want to say violent crime as well. And yeah, we got knocked down in both categories, and we were already 50th.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's
Normally someone would be like, yeah, like let's get some more people in here to like help us look better. And it's like, nah, nah, actually,
it's bad. Oh yeah,
not
it
too
ain't
much
good.
on that.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeesh.
So what I'm there's a lot to chew on for what you just said. What I'm curious, just kind of blanket on all of that is so first of all, I don't think most people know that their state has like a House of Representatives. I think they just
Yeah,
think about like, because when someone says, call your representative,
yeah,
9 times out of 10, what they're saying is call your local representatives to try to get local issues taken care of. But, when people hear call your representative, they think about the person out in Washington and like,
right,
why would I call them? They don't know about me. They don't care about me, whatever. So I think that's why I think it's very important to, you know, isolate that you are the local representative. You're the person
right,
that's actually
right.
representing your constituents directly. You live in probably the same neighborhood. You shop at
Mhm.
the same grocery stores. You whatever.
Right.
So
Drive
again,
by the same streetlights that are out and the
yeah,
potholes. And then in my case, right, like when I see that, I then call up the Department of Transportation and I'm like, yo, there's a streetlight that's out on this intersection, or there's a dead deer in the middle of the road. Can you guys come out and get the dead deer? Like a
right.
lot of times those are like the day-to-day things that I'm calling about is like, okay, there's a pothole, there's a bag of trash that someone just dumped here, or there's a dead skunk like in the middle of the road. Can you come get rid of it so that like not everyone rides over it? Like I did, it makes their car smell like skunk. Um, but I will say, like, full transparency, I didn't know that there was a state house and senate until I applied to work there, like as an intern. And
Well,
so
that's why
like
you. Let me. I'm glad you learned as an intern than as a
yeah, I was like,
elected
what do
official.
they do? And then like did a quick study so I could like interview to work there. And I was
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, the state house, like so important. But like it really is like all the issues that you mentioned, right? Like okay, I don't know about auto theft necessarily, but education, like quality of education, public education, that's a state issue, right? Like you often are funding schools either through local taxes or state taxes or both. And there's federal money too, but like it's a local issue. Curriculum is set by the state. Um, Teacher salaries, teacher like recruitment of teachers and staff, all that is a state issue. Um, what you mentioned, violent crime, right? Like, yeah, probably have like county police. Like a lot of that is locally,
right.
managed. So yeah, it is really important to pay attention and like weigh in.
Right. And so and again, I don't know anything about Delaware politics. I mean, I look things up, but I don't live there. I don't understand how the people actually are and how they feel and the issues that affect them. As your position as a representative, do you feel like do you feel you are a direct representative of the people that you represent? And the reason I ask that is like that's the whole idea of the position and of politics in general and the way our government is set up is that we elect the people, they go out and they make the decisions on our behalf, and they're supposed to be direct representatives of the majority of the pop, not everyone, but of the
Yeah.
majority that elected them. Um, and then that's great in model, and then you get to the actual job that you're doing and you have to put plan to action. You have to actually negotiate with other politicians and making the laws. Like you said, you have to send it off to the Senate, so on and so forth. But in practice itself, do you feel like you've been able to be a good representative of the people that elect you or that did
Yeah.
elect you? That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Yeah, and like we go to homeowner association meetings and like local meetings like that in different neighborhoods to check in with people, and a lot of times they'll meet like once a year, once a month or whatever. And I'm often surprised that people at those meetings, a lot of times older white men will come up to me afterwards and they'll be like, keep it up. I saw like, and they'll point to a specific like quote in the newspaper or like whatever, things that are kind of like you got to really be like paying attention to even have noticed that I said anything about it. And they'll be like, keep it up, kid. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I thought that was a little spicy. Like that quote was a little spicy, so I'm glad that you like that. Um, and that's been like really reassuring over the years, is like kind of that consistent, checking in with the community and people being like, yeah, no, I like what you're doing. Don't change. But it is frustrating working down in our capital. Like I'm representing my community and I have my academic expertise on the topic, my lived experience, and then I have to win other people over. A lot of times they have different lived experiences, they have different priorities. And it can be very frustrating.
Right.
Um,
And
yeah.
actually, to be specific too, so what does District 26 cover in Delaware?
Yeah, so it is almost completely residential. It's suburban and it's southern Newark, unincorporated Newark and Bear, which are both two suburbs, I
Ah, I
guess.
found it. Okay.
Yeah, and
The northern part of the state.
it's yeah, it's in our northernmost county, which is very a very democratic area. The middle part of the state is more like purple, and then the southern part of the state is pretty Republican, except for the beach area, which is very liberal. So my area, very democratic, a lot of independents, some Republicans, um, and it's very diverse, even in terms of like housing, right? Like we've got $500,000 houses with in-ground pools and all that, all the way to Section 8 housing and like literally everything in between. I have a couple mobile home parks. I have apartment complexes, townhomes, like everything. And it's a majority minority district, so the largest the majority of the district is non-white, but not one ethnic group is, 50%. So it's really diverse. It's got the most foreign-born residents per capita of any district in the state. And so it's like I love it. I feel like it's a great little snapshot kind of our country. Um,
Interesting.
and so because it's so diverse though, like I do have kind of a spectrum of issues people come to me with, right? Like I'll have like people that are at risk of having their electric cut off or it's already been cut off and they're like, I don't know what to do because they want $1,000 for me to turn it back on. I don't have $1,000, right? Like so I have people dealing with issues like that. And then I have people who are like, my road hasn't been repaved in 20 years and it looks like crap. And I go and look at it and I'm like, it doesn't look that bad. Um, and there are some roads that look really bad that I have to fund first, So like there is kind of there's a spectrum of issues people are dealing with, and so having to balance that can be a little bit tricky as well.
Well, and that's one thing I was going to ask too was so when you are looking at the issues that your district is facing, what like how do you prioritize the issues that you're taking care of? Like do you literally schedule it out through maybe like the week or the month where it's like, oh, we know we have to vote on these things or we know we have to propose these laws or I have to go to these meetings to get more insight on what's going on over here, like, and then not just prioritizing your schedule, but then the actual issues that you know you still have to take care of. How do you
Yeah.
organize all of that?
It's really difficult. And
I'm
like
sure, yeah.
every year I'm like, did I do that? I don't know if I did that well, right? Like I just was meeting with a developer a couple days ago, right? Who I'd kind of avoided meeting with developers for a while because I'm like, and then like over time you learn like, it is good to have a relationship with people from different perspectives because they are the ones that create affordable housing, right? Like, so I need to understand why a developer would decide to build affordable housing or not if I want there to be affordable housing. So I've been trying to be more intentional about that. So I'm meeting with this developer and I was complaining basically about how I think a lot of my time I spend studying other people's bills so that I can either rail against them or support them. And it's frustrating because then at the end of the year, you look at all the time you spent and you're like, wow, like I got two bills passed that were important to my community, but the other five that I put forward didn't go anywhere because I've spent so much time stopping bad things from happening. And you can't really like run on that. Like I'm not gonna put on my website like I killed five, like like some of the like killing of a bad bill just has to stay quiet because you don't want to really run a victory lap, on somebody. But
Okay, and
that's the
actually,
frustrating part of the job.
well, and what I'm curious too is because people, and I'm guilty of this myself, where people have and it's a wrong conception of how politics works, where they think like, oh, the killing of a bill happens like this, like everything happens instantly. So let's say there
So
is a
much work.
bill. Let's say there actually is not anything specific, but like an actual bill that you look at and you're like, if this passes, this is not good. Just overlap or overview, generally speaking, what is the timeline between you see it and it doesn't, and then like you see it initially and then it doesn't pass. What does that
Yeah.
timeline look like generally?
I would say most of the time we're talking about like a week.
Okay.
But but on the bigger bills, it could be weeks. Like there was a bill that I was not successful in killing that took probably a month of my life where I was like on Zoom calls with multiple experts trying to understand like the nuances of corporate law, which I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a corporate lawyer, right? Um, so and it was like wake up in the morning, get on Zoom, have them give a presentation, ask a bunch of questions. They respond to my questions. I'm like, okay, I think I understand it. Then I meet with someone else. Like, and it's like it's really it really takes a lot of time. So those are the bigger ones. But like the average one, it's like somebody introduces it, it shows up on the website, someone in the community reaches out to me and they're like, "Yo, did you see House Bill 1111?" And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "It's bad. You should take a look at it." And I'll take a look and I'm like, "Okay, why do you think it's bad?" And they'll tell me and I'm like, "All right, well, this person is from a civil rights group, so probably I'm going to agree with them, but let me meet with the person that brought the bill forward and hear what their thoughts are." Okay, they say it's great for A, B, and C. I go back to the other person. All right, they said A, B, and C. What's your response to that? And they're like, no, 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 no. Totally wrong. And they like give, so it's just back and forth, back and forth. Sometimes the bill is in a committee that I'm a member of. So that means I've got to prepare questions to do like, you know, those clips that are going viral now where it's like Jasmine Crockett and she's like asking questions and it's like really spicy. And then she's like, I have the floor and I'll reclaim my time, all that kind of stuff. Like it's kind of like that. And post COVID, it's all video, you know, it's all virtually accessible. So people are zooming in and watching it. So there is a bit more of that like antagonist kind of feel to it than there used to be, I think. But I have my own like briefing documents and I have one staff person who helps me and another member. So really most of it I have to do myself, or I have to just have like, you know, quality relationships with people in the community that can do that work for me for free.
Yeah.
And then I got to keep it all like I have to keep it all straight. So sometimes I go to committee and I've got like five folders on other people's bills. And then I've got my bill, like suddenly my bill is on committee the next day and I'm like, "Oh, I got to know my own stuff for tomorrow." So you won't see me at an open mic that time of year. That's
So
when I
all
disappear from the scene.
so all of this deliberation that you just described, how common is that practice amongst your colleagues, do you feel like, where they are doing that amount of work to understand what's going on and then make a decision based on that?
I will say it is not as common as it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I know there are definitely members that are like they show, you know, due diligence with every bill. They read every bill. They meet with stakeholders before they make a decision. But I would say the majority of members kind of go with the flow. And that's why my work is so important because as a Democrat, right, like in Delaware, Democrats run the House, we run the Senate, we have the governorship. So if it's a Democrat, you know, Democrats are behind it, it's going to move forward. So a lot of times stuff would fall through the cracks and just move forward because there's no opposition to it in the majority. And so, you know, I'll give an example. This bill didn't get killed, but it got changed. There's this program called 529 plans, which people that have a lot of money, they're able to put money in an account for college for their kids, and it's like not taxed, right? So it's basically a tax break for rich people who have kids. And one of my colleagues introduced a bill to expand that to Delaware, where like you can also be not taxed at the Delaware level if you're putting money in one of these plans. And I was like that's kind of a giveaway for rich people. And if we're gonna give away revenue, we're gonna have to cut from somewhere that's gonna hurt people who need it, right? So I brought that up in committee, was not prepared really. I just was like, I hate these things. And I was radicalized on those because of working at the Biden Institute pre like him becoming a presidential candidate when he was still middle class Joe. So I'm like, I started asking questions. Now other members are like, oh, like I share that concern. what can we do to make this not, and like, and it was enough people questioning that the sponsor was like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna actually edit this and see if we can make this means tested where it only will help people that are low income that do it or something like that. And I was like, okay, like
So
that's reasonable. Like I didn't really like it at all. But that was a very quick timeline. And it was super successful situation when normally it doesn't go that well. Normally you'd have to have like a whole presentation and like go back and forth and have experts come in and like all that to sway people to start to peel off.
so and just because my brain is like I half my brain is politically autistic and I'm very curious. So I'm trying to understand the argument with the political or with the college fund.
Yeah.
Oh, and I got a notification on my thing that said 5 minutes. So whenever it ends, I'll just restart the meeting and restart the recording because I'm
Okay.
not paying for Zoom Pro. That's just not happening. I don't pay for YouTube. I don't pay for Zoom. There are things in life that should be free. Um,
Yeah, like I should be able to watch every Eagles game for for one streaming service. I should not have to buy. I decided this year, I asked ChatGPT, I was like, how much would it cost for me to watch every Eagles game? And it was like, do you live local to the? And I'm like, yes. And it's like, okay, it would cost you like $179, but you still might miss these games. And I was like, I'm not that big a fan.
hell no.
Like, I'll just bum a, like, I will just go to a friend's house when it's a good game. I will go to a
Right.
local pub or something. Like, I'm not spending that much money to watch the Birds break my heart and lose to the Cowboys. Like, I'm
Me, me and my
not doing it.
homie, he's a local comic too. We were moving a bed set that when the Cowboys beat the Eagles this last weekend, we were moving a bed set, and as we're moving everything in, the game's like, oh well, it looks like Cowboys are going to lose. What a shame, because he's a Cowboys guy, and then they came back out of nowhere, and I was like, oh well,
Yeah.
all right, cool.
Yeah. I was at dinner with some friends and they had it on and I was like I think it was like 21-0 at one point and I was like, "Oh,
Yep.
cool. I'm glad I didn't like I'm glad I'm here at dinner, present, and didn't watch the game because it's a runaway." And then I looked back over at one point during dinner and I was like, "What happened?" And my friends were all like, "What?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What's going on?"
That's funny. Um, so with the college fund, so the argument, okay, so the premise of the program, you said it's called 529.
Yeah,
So the
521
premise,
plans. Yeah.
or 521. So
Five
the
Wait. I don't know. It's 529, I think, but
yeah,
neither here nor there. Yeah.
yeah. So the premise is that it is a account that people can put money into, and it's not taxable once they put the money in there, and it's supposed to stay only for a college fund.
Yeah.
Now, your argument against that is that it is basically a way for people with a lot of money to put their income into there so that they don't, because are they,
It
because they don't
lowers
get,
their taxable income,
say it
right?
again?
So it lowers their taxable income.
Okay.
So if you make, I don't know, like say you make $125,000 a year, right? And the threshold for like being taxed at a higher rate is 120,000. If you put 10,000 into this account, now you're not getting taxed at that higher rate.
Okay.
Right. It's very, very like I'm explaining it like super simply, and I'm
Right.
sure
Yeah.
it's wrong.
Oh,
Like I'm
that's
sure a
how I
tax
need it.
expert is like, that's not right. But basically it's a way for someone who has disposable income to save for college, which they're probably already able to do, right? And pay less in taxes. And it's a program that a middle class or low income family will never be able to use. Right. So like even if you say like, oh well, they're saving like okay, like maybe you could put $100 in there like every once in a while. Like most families can't afford to put money away for college in a meaningful way because college is so expensive and everything is so expensive, right?
Right. Right.
Um so I learned about the plan because this Brookings researcher wrote a book about how the upper middle class is hoarding wealth called Dream Hoarders, like 2017-ish. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. I just like read it like as a nerd. And then one of the first months working for the Biden Institute, Joe Biden required everybody on staff to read the book. And I'm like, this is so cool. I already have it. Like, he really does care about middle class Americans. And I had started reading, but I hadn't finished it. So I like finished reading it that night, come to work the next day, and my coworkers were all complaining about how they had to read it. And they were like, oh, like, I don't know if I agree with everything in it. And like, and I'm like, yeah, because you guys are all upper class. Like one of the things in the book was legacy admissions in colleges hurting low income, middle income Americans because a lot of colleges will say like, "Oh, your dad went here. We're gonna weight your application heavier now. Like, we want you to be a Duke family or like a Harvard family or whatever."
Right.
Um, like internships, being able to talk to your friend and be like, "Hey, can my kid intern at your law firm this summer?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." Like that was another practice he outlines in the book, and they are
Okie dokie. So, for all of our audio only listeners, I did not because the I haven't used Zoom. This shows you how long it's been since I've used Zoom. The last time I used Zoom, it gives you like a warning before it did that, and now Zoom just ends the meeting. It
yeah.
doesn't matter what you're saying or what's once you've hit your threshold, you've hit your threshold. Okay. So you're talking about the book that you were reading and you're at the Biden Institute and then you had a lot of friends that were in a higher couple higher tax brackets
Coworkers, yeah, yeah, yeah. Right.
or
Yeah. And
coworkers and
I was just getting fired up because
yeah.
it's so like frustrating being around rich people, I guess. And like I kind of was like in the closet, if you will, around my opinions then. Like I've been a Bernie bro and like voted for Bernie in the primary in 2016. So like I knew where I was kind of politically at that job. And I was oh, like that day was when I was like, oh, everyone else is different here. Like they're not even as progressive as Joe Biden. Interesting. Um,
See, okay, that is an interesting
yeah.
thing about like when you start really peeling back, not that obviously I'm not in politics like that, but even just as an outside looking in, when you really start reading and you start listening to how a lot of these like at the higher level, how these politicians think and what their actual policies are and how they again put pen to paper, you see that like, oh, okay, there's left wing and there's right wing, but inside of that there are people that have the extremist left views, they have the moderate left views, they have really there are more centrist left or even there's a lot of conservatism in there, but they
Yeah.
understand that the left wing might make them more money and then they kind of just play the system that way and like there's on the right wing especially today there's a huge both in the actual politics side of it and on the, I guess, political commentary or whatever you want to call it side of it, there's a huge split happening where, MAGA, whatever MAGA is these days, is fracturing because of how Trump is running the administration and how Trump is running the government. And you're looking at like, okay, who is America first truly on the right wing? And then you look at the left wing and you see, okay, well, who really cares about the country over there? And I bring all of this up because it's interesting seeing these people like on paper. You would never think that somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is now retiring, stepping down, but somebody
Yeah.
like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Mom Donnie on paper would they have a lot in common? No. But what do they care about? They care. I believe that Marjorie Taylor Greene cares about the country about as much as somebody like Mamdani or a Bernie Sanders does. They have radically different ways of going about it,
Yeah.
but they all want the same goal. And
Yeah,
it's
and I think to your point, there are a lot of Democrats and Republicans who share the same goal, and the goal is to make them money or to protect their assets,
yeah, for
um,
sure.
and the status quo, right? Which they benefit from. So like even in this scenario, right, where it's like we're reading a book about legacy admissions and 529 college plans and internship, like, privilege and whatever, it's upper class white kids who would consider themselves to be Democrats because they're pro gay marriage and abortion, basically, right? That really care more about protecting their ability to get wealthy than anything else. Like they don't really want the Bernie Sanders agenda because that would hurt them, they think. They don't need to worry about healthcare or I don't know, like what else? I'm trying to think of what Bernie ran on back then, but like it's frustrating, but it is illuminating to be in those spaces and be like, oh, like you guys have more in common when it comes to economics than I do with any of you.
Right.
Um, and that was kind of eye-opening for me. And that's kind of when I started to be like, all right, like this is a job. This is not a mission anymore, right? Like Joe Biden at the time, I think did have a mission of helping middle class Americans to realize the American dream. And like he would talk about it all the time. And people around him, I think, were like, I'm good. Like I got the American dream. And you're talking about rolling back programs that I benefit from and my family benefits from, and I don't want to do that. And so I was like, oh, like if he wins, everyone around him doesn't want him to succeed with his agenda. Like they're not on board. And that was pretty scary.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you, just from your point of view. What do you think happens when you see these people, whether they're running for whether it's a representative at the local level, representative, or a congressman position in DC, or it's the presidency? What do you think happens when, like, because you see this all the time, where they have all these grand ideas and they have these visions for how they want either their state to be ran or the country to be ran, and then they actually get into the position, and if you're lucky, a quarter of that happens. Like, do
Yeah.
you think it's them running into the brick wall of the machine? Is it corruption? Is it red tape? Is it all of the above? Like, because
Yeah, I
obviously
think
it's not going to be the point
yeah.
of a finger and it's like, oh, this is done, this is done, this is done.
Right.
But like, I mean, and I'm not even talking as something as clear as like the Trump flip that we've been experiencing for the last 10 and a half, 11 months. Not even something that extreme, but like, I guess a good example, because like I think personally, one of, if not the best statesman we've ever had was Barack Obama. He gets into office and it's like Guantanamo Bay doesn't get shut down. Obamacare gets put into plan, but there's a lot of rollbacks that happen almost immediately.
Yeah.
The foreign policy is the direct opposite of what he ran on. So, like, what do you think actually happens when these people get into power?
Yeah. I mean, I think it is a little bit of all of the above. I think when you have someone running for office who wasn't already part of the system, which is good, right? Like I think it's good to have outsiders be elected. Um, there is though like a idealism that you have coming from the outside where you're like, oh, we're gonna change like everything. And then you get in and you actually see how the system works and you're like, oh, like this is a much more difficult endeavor than I thought it was going to be. I think that happens for a lot of people. Like I just shared with you how much time I spend trying to stop bad stuff from happening, right? Like that's time that I'm not putting into making good stuff happen. Right? So like that's like a very real like you just have so much energy and time that you can expend. And the good stuff that I want to get done costs money. And without like Democrats, like progressive Democrats who want to raise taxes and want to spend more, in a majority, you're not going to fund half of those things. So, a lot of it is just like it's part of having representative democracy. Like without some kind of autocracy, you can't just make stuff happen.
Right.
But there is definitely, I think, some people they get beat down and then they stop imagining that things are possible. Um, I do kind of feel there is probably a conspiracy at the federal level around certain
Is there?
things.
Maybe,
Yeah, and like
maybe
I
a
thought
little
that
things are
before
not
before the
kosher.
Epstein list. Before the Epstein list, but like definitely now, right? Like I think a lot of us are like, "Oh, like they'll shut the government down just to not put this list out." Like who's on it?
You know that the government shutdown thing, like you're completely right. And I mean, because I've been, and this is, I heard about Thomas Massey for the first time through Dave Smith, and then he was on Theo Vaughn, and I was like, oh, this dude's kind of dope. I like this guy. And because politically speaking, I think the best way I've heard of, and the best way to describe myself at the moment is like I'm just politically homeless. Like I don't know,
Hmm.
like I don't know where I fall. Like I know that I have a lot of traditional or traditionally liberal views, like small L liberal views.
Mm.
And then I also have a lot of conservative views as well. And I'm just like, well, none of these are getting represented right now. So,
Well, that's
all
the
right.
problem with the two-party system, which, yeah.
Well, I mean, you don't even have to, it's not even a grand idea because it's like this is what I always go back to personally is in George Washington's final address to the nation. The two things he said not to get into were a two-party system and foreign entanglements. And what is tearing this country yeah, and what's tearing this country apart right
Bars.
now? You know, it's the
Yeah.
two-party
Yeah.
system and foreign entanglements. But, you know, how did you guys navigate because I have two questions actually, and they're both about basically about economics, I guess. But with the government shutdown, how did you navigate the the benefits getting shut down during that government shutdown? And then how do you feel, especially because you are on the Democratic Party, how do you feel like the end of that government shutdown actually played out for the party? And
Mm.
and
Okay.
then well,
Yeah.
I'll get to my second question because it's not related to the government shutdown. But how do you feel like that played out? Because from my point of view, it was okay. They shut down the government early because they had the votes on the Epstein files. That's just categorically true. Like that is factual. You can track that. They had the votes. They shut it down. They went into a 45-day recess that is
Yeah.
unconventional, never seen before. So that ends up happening. But then it seems like, from the outside looking in, it seems like now I blame most of the government shutdown on Trump because he's in power and just being prior military. My brain goes to the leadership of the organization is responsible for everything the organization is successful and a failure at.
Yeah. Okay.
So, you know what I mean? So, but it seems like the Democrats did have some sort of incentive to keep it shut down so that they had that massive blue wave on November 4th because the government opens up right after that. And then
Well, there was also this the more recent shutdown around healthcare, right? So like the
that's what I'm
Democrats
talking about.
were
Right, right,
like,
right, right.
right, right. Okay.
But
So how I feel about how that ended, like with the
yeah.
Democrats caving,
Yeah. Well,
I
because
think
again,
it's in
because
yeah.
yeah, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I mean, I just think it's embarrassing and it's frustrating because, when you're in the minority, you only have so much leverage. And so I thought it was good that the Democrats were actually standing up for something and forcing that conversation. And then to see them give up after so many people were negatively impacted from it, it's like, bro, what are you doing? And it was all basically for nothing. So that's very frustrating to watch politically. Um, at the state level, though, we have a number of different coffers, if you will, where we have them for emergencies, right? So like we were able to continue to fund SNAP even though SNAP wasn't funded federally for that month. And like we've been basically making sure everyone is kept whole throughout the process. Some states didn't have the resources to do that. And so, I mean, I know I've seen on like Instagram and stuff videos of community nonprofits and just people in the community coming together and saying like we're gonna raise the
Yeah.
funds to and that's like heartwarming to see, but yeah, it's very frustrating to watch from the outside, just political buffoonery. um
Well, because like for me, I looked at it and I was like, okay, like they are the Democrats. They are staunch right now on getting these provisions cleared before they reopen the government, and it looked like to me, maybe this is a bit of an extreme example, but it looked like when the body goes into hypothermia and it starts cutting off the blood flow to the feet to save the heart. And I was like, man, I don't know what's because there was just so much. I tried reading articles and listening to interviews, trying to figure out who is at fault here? Because there is so much finger
Yeah.
pointing
So
everywhere.
wait, so in that analogy,
Because
who's
I was
who's doing what? Like the
so
Democrats are saying the heart is like the American people and like snap is the toes or something?
I guess I was
Okay.
because
So
I'm
in that
looking.
analogy, in the end, what they do is like their toes are starting to like turn color and they're just like, "Huh," and they just like stab themselves in the heart
Well,
instead
that's
of
what it
like,
looks
it's
like
like what?
because I was like, okay, they're willing to let these pub or these federally funded benefits go through the ringer and not get funded if it means that they get these provisions that they wanted for the ACA that'll benefit them in the long run. So that's what
Right.
it looked like to me.
Yeah.
And
And then they got
then
nothing.
and
They
then
got
right.
nothing.
And then after and I and quite frankly, if you're already doing that and you have elections coming up, if this is the case, I wouldn't even blame them that much, I guess, for wanting to extend the shutdown to say, hey, look, the Republicans are really fucking
Right.
us right now.
Right.
Let's
That's
win
the
the
only
election.
leverage they have is like
Exactly.
to hold that hostage and to eventually force the Republicans to come to the table. And
Right.
they
Which
just were like,
they get the election and then they're like, all right, nope, we cave. And it's basically, from what I read, I don't even know if this is true or not, but from what I read, is that they cave, they allowed the government to reopen, and they say, oh no, but this is based on a promise that when this vote comes in December, we're going to get what we were asking for. Is that accurate?
I don't know.
That's what I
I
was
can't
reading
say.
from a couple of sources where I remember I read that
But
on
even
like,
if that's what they're saying,
yeah,
do
it's like
we believe
on
that?
a promise,
Like,
yeah. So this is very
I
interesting.
mean,
And
I
then
remember once we were promised 7-Eleven Slurpees in elementary school if we behaved well. We did not get them. That was like
so
25 years ago.
and my second question that's kind of along the sides of economics, not really a government shutdown, but I think they share a lot of similarities. So we're getting to a point with it really plays to affordability, but with inflation is so high that it's getting to the point that both federally and locally you can't tax enough to beat inflation and you can't tax enough to outpace that. So then it's forcing the government now at the federal level, they're fucked. Like they can't look at their budget because I mean the number one line of spending on the budget right now is the inflation on the debt, which is insane. But at the local level, when you look at your local budgets and you look at where you're able to spend money, not even asking priority lists, but like how does the body of representatives come together to decide those things at the beginning of each fiscal year?
Mhm.
Like how do you figure
Yeah,
that out?
so Delaware is kind of we're kind of doing a great job at this, to be honest. Like, so most states have to balance a budget, unlike the federal government. So we're actually budgeting.
Yeah,
And like,
yeah,
and that's not to say that they should balance the budget, right? Like, if it's a global economy, like modern monetary policy, all that, right? But like, we can't print money, so we have to
right.
balance the budget.
That's a
And
crazy little stipulation you have that you can't just
yeah, we can't
yeah,
print money. It's crazy. I don't know. I
yeah.
wish I could. I have a printer. I would if it
I don't
wasn't
know
illegal, you know?
if the federal government is any model, printing money is
Yeah.
not a good thing. Yeah.
I mean, depends on who's got it. You know, like
Well,
if we're dealing with inflation and I print a couple thousand over here, no one's gonna bat an eye. But anyway, that's not the point. At the state level, we have a committee of like business and taxation and finance experts, and like some elected officials that meet monthly and look at our state's portfolio, look at our projected revenue and our costs, and they basically like give us a forecast each month. Then when we go into session, we're only in session 6 months out of the year. We have a joint finance committee, which is made up of members of the House and the Senate from the Democrat caucuses and the Republican caucuses, who sit and listen to presentations from every agency saying what they've been using funding for, what they'd like to get more funding for, nonprofits, everything. And they draft it up with staff support using those forecasts. And we have at least two kind of like rainy day funds that we've put a lot of money into to kind of like help us weather storms if we end up with, you know, we think we're going to have so much money in the budget and we're 3% short of that or things like that. We have multiple different ways of addressing that. Um, so, I mean, Delaware is pretty fiscally responsible. We have a AAA bond rating, which allows us to
No
borrow
shit.
money, yeah, like much cheaper.
Right.
So we use that for bond like capital projects, basically like building schools and things like that. Um, so we're in a pretty good position as a state.
So if you were to look at your model for how Delaware basically runs its budget, like everything you were just describing, if there were a couple of things that you wish the federal government would adopt,
Mm.
if you could go to Congress and be like, "Hey guys, listen, this is really working in Delaware. Maybe this idea will help with what you." I know it's a drastically bigger machine. You're dealing with
Yeah.
one state out of 50, and they have the DOE, the DOD, I guess DOW. Not so fucking stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say cut that. Like, let's like slash that budget and everything else. Like, the sun will come out from behind the clouds. Like, um, yeah, I mean, they're really different. So, like, besides spending
yeah,
priorities, right? Like, I think we should, as a country, be putting billions less into the military industrial complex and be putting that into economic development and quality education. Because I think most people are in this country are struggling because they can't get a job that pays them well enough
yeah.
to like live, right? And like a lot of the money beyond the defense budget, which it should be called the Department of War, honestly, right? Because it wasn't about defending us, but that's a political
No,
take.
no. I
Um,
mean, I mean that's. I mean, I'm
I
not
didn't think
offended by
about
that.
it.
Like
I
that's.
didn't
I
think about
mean,
it until now, but like it is more accurate. Um, but I think we put a lot of money into that instead of investing into our communities and people rely on the government for services that they should be able to provide themselves, but we haven't created an economy that's inclusive enough for them to do that. Right? Like
well,
people that I
yeah,
know that are on government assistance are working very hard
yeah,
and it's not getting them ahead.
yeah. Because that's a good point to bring up. Just because I get it. Like you with every facet of government, with every facet of life, you are going to have individuals or group of people that are not great representatives of the massive, of the total people. But when you look into the actual statistics of people that are on government assistance, I think I read something like 60 or 65% of them are working more than 40 hours a week. And then I think it's 80% of the households on benefits have at least two kids.
Right.
And so it's
And
like
like with SNAP, like I forget the percentage, but a large percentage of SNAP recipients can't work. Like they're like senior citizens, like it's
and then
like
you have that.
disabled
Right.
people. Yeah, so it's like it's not a handout. And we do have issues too around like what they call benefit cliffs, right? Where like you qualify if you make 40,000, but if you make $40,001,
Right.
you don't qualify. And so people
Well,
then
yeah.
choose to stay in like it's like, oh, I could get promoted to manager, but then I'm gonna lose more in
Yep.
benefits than I would make as manager. So people are making these like really, you know, career that decisions that are detrimental to their career growth because there's no incentive for them to make that little bit more money.
I agree. No, because like even
Yeah.
in my job in the company that I work for a security company, and I used to be I'm a manager now, but I used to be a recruiter. And I remember when I was interviewing people, and I would ask them like, "Are you looking for full time or part time jobs?" And I'd have a lot of people that were like, "Well, um, if they were looking for part time, it was always because of, you know, I have Social Security or I have this bit or whatever it is." And it's like I know that if I work more than like 23 or 24 hours a week, this benefit is going to start getting
Right.
cut down and cut down and cut down. And I completely agree. Like if we would stop spending all this money overseas, you could pump more money into because my whole thing is like I don't have a lot of socialistic style views, but if we have all of this money for war, and that's coming from like I used to be in the military. I just think about how I was 6 years ago, and I think about myself now, and it's like so different. But like if we have $380 billion to spend over the next proposed 20 years with the state of Israel, I think we have enough money to maybe allocate and figure out like how to
Auto
properly
theft in New
fund.
Mexico.
Right. Yeah, right. How to
Can you
figure out
imagine? Can you imagine?
like because I
Give everyone a
remember
car.
right. But
Like, I mean,
I just remember when words used to
ridiculous.
have meaning, when numbers used to have meaning. Because over the last, basically since the beginning of the Ukraine war, it's like $100 billion, $200 billion, $80 billion, $90 billion. It's like, where are these numbers coming from?
Yeah, what does that even mean? Like,
Right,
I can barely process like what a million really looks like. Like, and because of inflation, it's like, someone's like, yeah, I got $1 million. You're like, like
right,
that'll last you a few
right,
years. Like, but like a billion, okay, billions. And we have people, I mean, you could just drive up this main corridor by where I live. There's people living in tents in the woods.
right.
Like there's people walking along like basically a major kind of highway because they can't afford to get a car,
Well, I was
right?
gonna,
Or they have one and they can't afford the repairs, right? Like
yeah,
my car's in the shop and I'm so glad that I can afford the car that I have because otherwise I would be up like I'd be on the hook for fixing it out of pocket and I can't afford it. So
right,
like I just the guy from the dealership called me with what the issue was and I was like, thank God it's the car. Because it's new, so it's y'all, and this rental is y'all, and like all that's y'all. But like that's a privilege that I even could shell out the money for this, right? To keep and like some of my friends were like, I can't believe you're getting a lease, and I'm like, I can't afford to buy a used car. I can't like.
right. Yeah,
I can't afford like an unexpected car bill. Like I did that for years. Like as soon as you own the car, the car is like I'm out.
yeah.
And like I can't afford that. So like it honestly breaks my heart. Like I got pulled over. Last time I got pulled over was because I picked up a kid who was riding his bike on the side of the road and like I kept seeing him slip off the road. It was raining and it's like there was
Oh my God.
no shoulder, and there's cars and it's like one of those like kind of like country type roads, it's winding. And I was like, this kid's gonna get hit by a car. And so I stopped and I was like, do you need a ride? And he was like, and he like threw the bike into the woods and got in the car. And I'm like, where are you going? Like, and he told me, and I turn, and like before he even gets in the car, people are on the horn, right? And I'm just like, this country. But I turn the corner, and whoop whoop, right? And the cop pulls me over, and he's like, he thinks I'm human trafficking.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and this was when I was running for office the first time. So my face is literally like on billboards and stuff in the area, right? And I'm like, why would I openly traffic? It's the middle of the day.
Hey, in all fairness, I would like to have a cop that thinks that and then finds out it's not. Then you got Barney Fife with one bullet who looks at a human trafficker potentially goes, "Have a good day," and then walks away.
Right,
So,
right. Which they did apparently with, everyone on the list, the Epstein list, but
well,
I didn't know about that then. Okay. So all I know is I'm scared. I have this black kid in the car with me, and I'm like, you know. So I'm like all feisty and whatever. And I'm like, if you cared, you should have given him a ride. You guys should. And he's like, let me talk to him. He like talks to the kid and like separately, and I guess he passed the human trafficking test. And he's like, all right, you can give him a ride. I drop him off. Turns out he lives in my district, right? And I don't know how he got his bike. But after that, I was like, I probably shouldn't do that ever again. But it sucks, right? Like, it's like I see people in my community walking in like really unsafe conditions all the time.
yeah.
And like you can't pick people up. Like you can't help them and it sucks. And like earlier this year, there was a guy who was homeless who used to ride his bike. And I saw him riding his bike and I had the same thought that I always have. And I was like, I can't give him a ride. It's not safe. And I went home. I was only home for like 10 minutes to pray, and I started hearing helicopters. And I was like, oh, weird. Like normally I can hear that and it's like they go to the landing strip and whatever, but it was just constant. And I was like, oh no. And I had a community meeting to go to. So I like quickly came home, prayed, changed, got in my car. And as I was leaving, that whole side of the street was shut down because somebody hit him.
Oh shit.
Yep. And then
So
I go to a community meeting and they're like complaining about like stuff that's not really important, you know, and
right.
like the grand scheme of things. And I'm like, I was really struggling to even be present because I'm like, this is crazy. And that's something that at the state level we could do something about, right? Like we could put money into better public transportation, safer bike lanes, like all that stuff that is within our purview. And people die when we don't prioritize that.
What does the homeless issue look like for the state of Delaware? Because like in New Mexico, it is horrendous. Like it is absolutely, and it's growing. It's growing by the day. It's I mean, because we have obviously um we have a horrible drug problem, but we also have just the unaffordability issue. Just really quick,
Yeah,
what does
yeah.
homelessness look like for Delaware at the moment?
Yeah, well, during COVID, we saw an increase in family homelessness.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
We do. My understanding is we do have a very low homeless veteran population, but we are dealing with like a drug addiction crisis, and there are a lot of places that you can't live in a shelter if you're on drugs or if you're like bringing certain things in. So people
Right.
do choose to not be housed so that they can like live the way they want to live. Um, but it's definitely an issue and it seems like it's getting worse. And I think for the reasons that you mentioned, right? Like it's very expensive and it's very easy to find yourself like with no options.
Yeah.
And we have a very like I forget how many thousands of units short, like for affordable housing. So people are living like, if I could afford to buy a house that's 250,000, but there are none available, so I'm buying the house that's 200,000 and like everyone's crunching down, right? So people that normally would be able to afford somewhere can't. There's just nowhere open. I have people reach out to me all the time and they're like, I'm looking to move, like I'm looking for an apartment within this range and I'm like, yes. I don't like I have a roommate. Like I don't know
Yeah.
what to tell like it's bad. It's like really, really hard to make it. And it's getting more difficult. And so a lot of people are like living with family if they have that, ability. But if you don't have family, you don't have friends that, can have you join them and like it's not against our lease and stuff like that, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Like it's bad. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're spending all those billions of dollars to make sure everyone in Israel has a house and
Yeah.
everyone in Gaza gets bombed. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's absolutely that. Yeah, I could go on for the next 5 hours about that. Like
yeah,
that's
this
it's
is super
absolutely
uplifting stuff.
like
Like,
it is.
I'm sure it's obvious to everyone listening that I am a comedian.
See, and I wanted to touch on that because I want to be respectful of your time. And we only have about 10 minutes or so left. But how in the world do you find the time between everything that we just discussed over the last hour and some change? How in the world do you find the time to go to a fucking open mic? And why is it? Because why is it? I mean, it's different for you because you're a comic, but like you want to go through your day doing everything in politics that you do, and then you're like, I'm gonna go to an open mic to cap off my night. What a horrible plan, in my opinion. Because open mics
Mental
are,
illness, no.
yeah, right. It's like,
Um,
well, because how long have
yeah,
you been doing stand up now? About 2.5 years, 3 years,
three and a half now. Yeah,
three and a
coming up on
half.
3.5. Yeah.
Okay. So, what made you start comedy in the first place, and how do you have the fucking time?
So I realized, I think year one of being an elected official, that my favorite part of every speech was the jokes that I was sneaking in and people's responses. Like when the joke would land, I was like, and I was like, oh, like I love comedy. I forgot. Like, how come I haven't been doing anything in that space for so long? Um, And I think I was like 20, 27, 28 or something. And I had this like thing in my head that like, oh, like I gotta try everything I want to try now before it's too late. And like I'm too old or whatever. And now I'm 32 and I'm like, that was dumb. But I'm glad I started, right? But I was like, I'm gonna take a class and if I'm trash, I'm trash, right? But if I have any kind of like success with it, I'm gonna put some effort in and see where it
Yeah.
goes. And it's something that I love and I've always wanted to do. So I paid for a class at Helium Philly, and I think it was like 6 weeks. And like week one or two, our teacher was like, "You guys gotta all go to an open mic. That's your homework." And I was like, "Oh, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to just do it here in this safe space where we all support each other or whatever." But I went to a local open mic and probably bombed. I don't know if I bombed, but like I did not do as well as I thought I was gonna do. Like, and I was like, this sucks and this is really uncomfortable. I'm gonna do it again.
Nice. Yeah. There you
And
go.
yeah, and just never looked back. And like to my surprise, within a few months, people were booking me for shows and stuff like locally, and I was like, oh, like I could actually do this and make money and put the effort in, and it's rewarding. Like both my jobs are really rewarding, right? Like as frustrating as it is to be a politician during COVID, during Trump presidency, even probably during Democrats running things, it'll be frustrating. But most days I can help someone and in a way that changes their life, right? Like I would love to change everyone's life, but changing just my neighbor's, ability to not get their house foreclosed on because I connected them with a resource. Like that's really meaningful and rewarding. And a lot of people don't get to do that in their day to day. So
Right.
I think it's a major blessing. And then in comedy, you get to do the same thing, right? Like you get to have somebody forget the depressing reality of the world for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
15 minutes, 45 minutes if you get to, like, and it's awesome. And as someone who's, not what you would think of necessarily when you think of a stand-up comedian, one of my most like one of the moments that I appreciate the most is after a show in like a rural area in Pennsylvania or Maryland, when an old white person comes up to me and they're like, I love when you said X, and they like quote a joke to me. And then they're like, so you're Muslim, right? And like we have a conversation about something that they've never been able to talk to someone about. And they feel comfortable asking questions because we were able to break those like walls down through relating to each other about poop or whatever like silly thing,
Yeah.
right? Like that we're joking about. And like that is the, amazing feat of the comedian. And I love that I get to do that. So yeah, I will sit through an open mic. And like I went to one last night and it was like seven of us and
I was
it
gonna
was
ask
so bad.
how big is the comedy scene where you're at?
It's not that big in Delaware, but we're kind of like part of the Philly scene. So like I was in Philly last night
Okay.
and I go up there like right now I'm going up there like a couple times a week. When we're in session, I won't be able to do that. But yeah, like most of us are in the Philly comedy scene and it was in Philly and it was like seven of us there because it's like Thanksgiving week. Everybody's doing things and whatever.
Right.
But this group came in of like four college students, and I was sitting near them, and I could hear them being like, "Oh, comedy? There's comedy happening in here." Ah, and they're like, "Do you want to stay?" Like, I don't know. And they were like talking I forget who was on stage at the time, but like every joke that didn't land, they were like, "Oh my God, oh." And then, and I was like, "Oh my God, please stay, please don't leave."
I can fix
Please
this.
don't leave. And then the next comic went up there and they were like, like everything he said, they were just like, and he was just getting like he was getting edgier and edgier and they were not feeling it. And I was like, they're gonna leave. And they got up and they all like quietly snuck out and I was like, damn it.
Yeah. That's the open mic experience right
And
there.
the host got up and he was like, well, so and so scared off the audience, but hey, one of us was gonna do it.
That's funny. Do
Yeah,
you
it
ever
was
have
fun.
like do you have people recognize you from your position in politics whenever they see you at a show or they see you at a mic? Like, oh shit, hey, I voted for you.
Yeah. I tried to keep it under wraps when I first started comedy, and I only used my first name, and I didn't post anything. Like I just like I was very like secretively doing comedy. And I was at an open mic and I did a set, and then afterwards this lady came up to me and she was like, "Aren't you a st-" And I was like, "Damn it. There's no way I'm gonna be able to keep this under wraps." Yeah, it's not that common, but it happens. Yeah, especially in Delaware, people will be like, "Aren't you?" Aren't you state rep? And now because it's out, I'll talk about it sometimes. Sometimes people
Yeah.
introduce me that way. Um, yeah, but the best is when I'm at political events and people come up to me and they're like, "This is gonna sound really weird. Do you do comedy?" And I'm like, "Yes, yes." I remember where I was standing when this lady told me that
That's
because I was
funny.
like, "Yes." Yeah, she was like, "I think I saw you at a brewery like a year ago," and I was like, "Yes, yeah."
Okay, yeah, Zoom closed that again. But that's great that you're getting
And we're
recognized.
still not paying for premium.
Yeah, hell no. No. No, thank you. And then
Yeah.
I know that you do have to go here in the next couple of minutes. And I want to be conscious of your time. I do just want to add, I don't know if you saw this or not, but you on your Wikipedia page, there is a Kill Tony section. It
Oh, that's new.
it literally says Kill Tony appearance. That is how massive that show has gotten, and now it is on your Wikipedia page.
That's
So
wild.
you
I
have
gotta go
a
look at
yeah,
that.
I just thought that was hilarious. So um well, I just want to say thank you for coming in or for coming virtually and doing this. For the last question I have about your stand-up, so obviously you do shows outside of like when you're in session.
Mhm.
Uh, but how do you go about being able to balance, even when you're out of session, how do you balance that political and your comedy life?
Yeah. It's difficult at times, but Delaware is a part-time legislature, part-time in quotes, because some states they meet year round. Delaware meets from January through end of June. So from July to December, there are no set times that I have to be in the legislature. So I can kind of build my schedule. And, one of the good things that came out of COVID is all this virtual stuff, right? So like even when I was out in Texas, trying to get on Kiltony and actually got on, I was doing meetings. Like I took the Greyhound bus from Fort Worth to Austin, and I literally was on a Zoom call on the Greyhound bus with Delaware's Department of Transportation talking about like an infrastructure improvement. So like I make sure that I'm doing the work that I need to do. And I also am privileged in that I don't have a 9 to 5. Like some of my colleagues, they like one of my best friends down there, she is a teacher. So when we're out of session, she's in the classroom and then she's, home and she's feeding the kids and then she's doing lesson planning and then go. So like I do have the flexibility to work on my own schedule, which is really beneficial. But I also just like I love the work that I do.
Yeah.
And so, I didn't get home till like 1 a.m. because I decided I was gonna go to a mic and I was gonna go and like try to meet Fiona Colley and like just yeah, like those are decisions that I make with my time, right? And I'm not watching TV or like hanging out watching the Eagles.
Right.
Like, so that's something that I'm like comfortable doing right now, this time of my life. I don't have kids, so like that would change the game completely. I
Yeah.
only got to take care of myself and my constituents, so I have the time to do that. And like I said, when we're in session, my schedule, my tour dates slow down significantly.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like there were a couple times where I had a show the night that we were in session, so I brought like a change of clothes with me and stuff and like changed at work from business clothes to like, the comedian like sweatshirt and jeans or whatever. And I had one gig in New Jersey on like a Thursday or something that was supposed to be a short day. We're supposed to be like done voting at like 4 or whatever. And it's getting to like 4:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock. And I'm messaging the booker and I'm like, hey, I'm still at work. in the capital, which is like an hour south of where I live. And he's like, "All right, cool, just like keep me updated." I'm like, "I'm still at work. I'm still at work." And eventually I was like, "I'm not gonna make it." And he was like, "You're doing important work. It's okay. Like we you got a good excuse." I like sent a picture from my desk. He's like, "You got a good excuse." But I did learn that day to never schedule myself for an evening show when I'm in session. So I
Yeah.
just don't do that anymore. And I did have to cancel some gigs because we had a emergency session that wasn't, but like that's just how I prioritize it, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm, unless it's like a really, like I signed a contract to be there or something, I'm gonna prioritize the work of the people. Like I can't. So
Right.
that it does stink for like 6 months out of the year that I can't take like a Thursday show, but that's the job.
That's the
So,
gig. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, hey, again, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for taking time to sit down and talk about all this stuff with me. I'd love to do it again sometime. I know you're going out to Austin here pretty soon again. I hope all of that goes well. Oh, and then were you able to connect with Allison at the Creek?
Yes. Yeah. So
Sick.
I think I'm gonna be on a show early January when I'm out there.
Sweet. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
she's great. She's a good friend of
yeah.
mine. She's awesome.
Thank you for the connection.
Oh
And
yeah.
one day, hopefully I will get out to New Mexico. All I know about New Mexico so far is Breaking Bad
Yeah.
and auto theft.
Yeah.
So
We also
one
have
day that will
amazing food.
change.
Well,
One day.
thank you again for taking the time. Where can everyone find you on social media? How can people support you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Medina for Delaware at Medina Comedy. I'm on TikTok at Medina Comedy. I'm on Blue Sky, which is for your like boring lib
Yeah.
listeners. I hate it on there. I will say I hate it on Blue
Yeah.
Sky. But I'm on Blue Sky. I think that's Medina for Delaware. I'm on Twitter X at Medina for DE. Facebook Medina Comedy, YouTube Medina Comedy. Follow
Nice.
me, like, and subscribe on YouTube, please, please. And you can check out my podcast I have with my uncle, for lack of a better word.
Awesome. And
Available.
I'll have all of those in the description of the episode on YouTube, Spotify, and all that stuff. So uh,
Awesome. Thank you. This was awesome. This was so much fun. And one day I will make it out to New Mexico and hopefully not get my car stolen.
yeah. Well, thank you again, and thank you everyone for listening and watching, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.